Hi everybody and welcome to another Heel Heat Top 10. My name is George Coles. This is my tag team partner, Scott Flash Norton.
Gary Rhodes, everybody. Scott Flash and Norton. Really? That's a real tag team partner.
Now this week's Top 10 is the Top 10 Brightest Futures. I'll go ahead and lead this one off. The number 10 position, we're going to give this to a tag team. The Uso brothers, Jimmy and Jay.
One of the best tag teams that are out there right now, and they're really coming to their own right now. And I think the sky's the limit for these two guys, especially I think they could be as good as their dad was when he was the head shrinker or Samoan SWAT team. I really enjoy the way they're working now. They're working more as a Samoan team instead of just a
team.
Yeah, regular team.
Yeah. A really good team, probably one of the best tag teams in the business right now. I see nothing but dollar signs coming from them. And if they ever decide to split up, I think both the kids have enough talent that they can carry singles careers.
As long as they don't do a Sultan character. Anyways, okay, we're going to keep going with number 9. The guy that's not with WWE, he's actually with TNA, Magnus. Magnus, ever since he's came over from England, he's really stepped it up. I mean, they've given him kind of some shit gimmicks, and he's worked with them, and this whole little push they had him against Samoa Joe, their little war was really good.
And the kid, I mean, when you look at him, you see nothing but dollar signs. He's a future main eventer in TNA. He's a guy that they can build the company around for the next 5 or 7 years if they so choose to, in my opinion. I think his character works either as face or heel. He's got good characteristics for both. He's got a good look to him, and he's tremendous in the ring. And our number 8 guy, speaking of tremendous in the ring, Seth Rollins, formerly Tyler Black. Most of you guys know him from being part of the Shield. He's a former Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion as Tyler Black. This is a kid that has so much dedication into the business, and you could see it in every time he works. I mean, the kid he's money. He's right up there. I would say he reminds me of an early, probably I would say about a 2004, 2005 CM Punk.
Saying a lot. And I've watched a lot of his NXT matches. I didn't get a chance to see a lot of his Ring of Honor matches. And the kid's a great worker. And like you said, the sky's the limit for this kid. As long as he's willing to do it, and they're willing to push him, I see he could be one of the next, brightest stars.
I definitely agree. And he's already been a world champion of Ring of Honor. There's only bigger and better things for him in WWE and anywhere else he'd like to wrestle.
Now, number 7, this guy I'm not really a lot
familiar.
That's the word. A lot familiar with is Adam Cole. Now he's with Ring of Honor. Has he been our world champion yet?
No, he's been their television champion.
That's right. But I know Vince is very high on getting the guy. I've really just started watching Ring of Honor.
But Adam Cole's a guy. He's kind of one of the kings of the indies right now. He's had solid runs in CZW, Ring of Honor, a bunch of other indie promotions. I believe he's a PWG world champion right now, won the belt from Kevin Steen. But the guy has a lot of upside potential. He's got a good look to him, much like we've said for a couple of these guys already. And, there's nothing but potential in the guy, and I really like how he works. He's someone that I think could be a bankable babyface for a long time. And speaking of bankable characters, our number 6 guy is Bray Wyatt, formerly Husky Harris. Bray Wyatt, if you haven't seen what he's been doing in FCW, aka NXT now, he's got kind of a cabin or a Waylon Mercy style gimmick where he's almost a cult leader, backwoods type guy. A guy is pulling it off with tremendous capabilities. The only thing I think that holds him back from not being on the roster right now is the fact that he's got a weight issue.
Yeah, but the guy can work. He's just like Dusty Rhodes. I mean, I've seen him work matches before, and he's a powerhouse. But he can go an hour. I think he could go an hour.
I mean, he comes from a great lineage. I mean, he's the son of IRS Mike Rotundo. He's the grandson of Blackjack Mulligan. I mean, the guy's got everything you would want in a wrestler. Just he doesn't have quite the look that they're looking for. But I think in someone like him, if it works out so much better. I mean, you've had a bunch of guys that didn't have a perfect look that have made tremendous impacts. Yokozuna, Mick Foley, Big Boss Man, Ray Traylor. I mean, you've had a ton of guys that have had not perfect looks, but have made tons of money, and I think he's one of the guys that could fit that role.
Well, number 5 is a guy he's actually, how long has he been with NXT now?
I think a little over a year.
Cassius Ohno.
Formerly Chris Hero.
Chris Hero. This guy has been a workhorse, and you see a lot of guys that have worked with him in the past, and to do interviews about the guy. He does nothing but get better. I mean, he was, what, 300 pounds
300,
plus?
350 or something to that effect. And he's worked himself into a really great physique. I mean, he reminds me, his physique reminds me of Barry Windham's. And the guy, if you've seen any of his Ring of Honor work as Chris Hero, he's absolutely great in the ring. He's got a commanding presence. He's someone that he insists that you look at him. Mm-hmm. And you can't help but when he's on your screen, you don't turn away, because the guy's got that kind of personality that keeps you interested in him, and that's one of the main characteristics you need to make it big.
Well, when he was still Chris Hero, I didn't get a chance to watch a lot of Ring of Honor, but I did watch a lot of his matches on YouTube and stuff like that, and the guy was nothing but impressive. You see some of the stuff this guy, at the size he was at that point, some of the stuff he pulled off was really good.
It still is, and he's a master of the rolling elbow or elbow strikes. He's considers himself a striker, which is kind of the Undertaker's gimmick, but I think he's a guy that could come in and be a top star right off the bat once they pull him up to the main roster. And speaking of guys that have become top stars coming right to the main roster, our number 4 guy is one of the partners of our number 8 guy, Dean Ambrose. To me, I see Dean Ambrose as the Brian Pillman loose cannon character now. I mean, if this guy can keep it up there, doesn't have any issues, keeps on the roster, I think that this could be the fully realized vision of what the Brian Pillman character was going to be before he died. I mean, he has all the characteristics. He's a great talker. He's a great in-ring worker. He's got that antagonistic side of him that reminds me so much of Brian Pillman, which is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And I think again, like we've said about most of these guys, the sky's the limit for this kid.
Well, I remember when it was still FCW, when he was wrestling there, him and William Regal. I mean, you could tell Regal worked a lot with this guy. And I say kid, I mean, how old is he? He's like probably about 28 in that area, I think.
Somewhere around there.
And, to have a guy like William Regal give a shit about you and work with you, and...
Well, Regal will help basically anybody.
If they respect it. And that's the thing. A lot of these younger guys don't have the respect that the old school guys do. And that's what I like about Ambrose. And the thing is with him, I was really hoping back during WrestleMania, when he was supposed to kind of make his push to work for Vince for the Big Show.
He's working for the Big Show?
Yeah. Well, for the Raw, SmackDown, to get up there, but it took a long time, and I was just glad to see him. The Shield could have been shit as long as it brought Ambrose to television. That's the way I look at it. And the Shield ended up being the shit, not shit.
And another thing, when he was John Moxley wrestling on the Independents, if you look it up, him versus Daniel Bryan as Bryan Danielson, I think it's either Evolve or Dragon Gate USA. They gave one of the greatest matches of the past 5 years between them two, and they told a story from the beginning to the end. The guy, I mean, I can't say enough about how impressed I am with this guy's talent and his potential.
Well, you talk about storytellers. We're going to get to our number 3 guy. One of my personal favorites ever since you introduced me to this guy. And like I said, this is the reason I started watching Ring of Honor, is Kevin Steen. This guy here shows you that you don't have to have a $1 million body. You just have to have the ability and the agility and the
dedication.
Exactly. This guy here, if you look at him, you say, man, this is a fat slob. But then you see some of the shit this guy does in the ring, and it just blows your mind. I mean, every time I see a different match with him, I just never get any more impressed.
And the guy, I mean, he's at the top of Ring of Honor. He's our world champion right now. And, I really think that that's not even the limit for him. I think he could be a world champion in WWE. He could easily be a TNA world champion. Anytime that one of these two companies want to call him up into the big league, so to say, Ring of Honor is just a step down from them. No knock on Ring of Honor or the show they put out, but
they don't have the national.
They don't have the national presence, even as much as TNA. But Kevin Steen is a guy that you could plug into your show, and he could be a top heel on either show, on WWE, on Ring of Honor, on TNA. His gimmick, his character works so well on so many levels, and he's just, the way he plays it off, it comes off so realistic that you believe that that's how he actually is.
And the guy is one of those guys that, I mean, behind the scenes, we watched his DVD, and he's one of those guys that has a lot of respect for guys and respect for the business, and you know, he scratched his way to the top of Ring of Honor. Sorry, it took me forever to spit that out. But I mean, I've not seen a bad match with this guy in it. No. His work with El Generico, either when they're together or fighting each other, is phenomenal.
And that's the thing. He's a guy that they didn't want to be at the top of Ring of Honor didn't even want them as the face of his company, and he stormed his way and kicked down the door and said, I am going to be the face of your company, and he's done it. He's made it up there, and he's one of the most interesting things, probably the most interesting thing about Ring of Honor wrestling right now.
Oh, he is. I mean, like I said, we used to talk about when we first started doing a show about watching Ring of Honor, and George watched a lot of it, but I was like, no, I really don't have the time, scheduling and all that stuff. But actually, I've made time to watch these shows now, and it's just because of Kevin Steen. I mean, they gained one viewer because of one person, and I like their product more. Exactly, and the sky's the limit for him. If Vince or Dixie pick him up, I see nothing but greatness in this guy's future. And he's only like 26, 27 years old. He's not that old.
Well, speaking of someone that has nothing but greatness in their future, which most of these guys do, our number 2 guy is Damien Sandow. He's a guy that's been around for a little while. He's had some other gimmicks, but I think he's really dialed it in this gimmick, and this is a gimmick that I think has real staying power.
He's like the Genius, but tough. It's cool when he brings that mean streak into this. I really like this character. I think he's one of the shining lights of certain episodes of Raw. If you watch a shitty Raw, if Sandow's wrestling on it or has a promo or whatever, it's usually the best part of the show. Well, one of the best parts.
And his tag team that he's currently in with Cody Rhodes, I think, is great. Them, the Usos, Team Hell No, I think are really rejuvenating the interest in the tag team division in the WWE. And he's a big part of that. The interviews, the promos he's doing, his work with Cody, those guys seem to gel perfectly.
Well, when Cody got hurt a couple months back, he did the old school thing. He finished the match himself. He didn't tag Cody back in. He didn't try to, get it disqualified or anything. He finished the match himself. That's very respectful right there.
Yeah, and he's a guy that, he's one of the guys kind of like a Triple H, not exactly like, but he has no wasted motion. There's no flash for the sake of flash. Every move he does has a reason and a reason behind it. If he does an arm bar, he's going to keep working on your arm the whole match. He doesn't do a flipping drop kick just to do it because he can.
Kind of like old school Ted DiBiase.
Sort of.
He always, whenever
Which Ted did?
The father. Yeah, the old school Ted classic. He always, like you said, if he worked on the arm, that's what he worked on through the match.
Yeah. And his continuity, his gimmick is great. His continuity is great. He's already near the top of the WWE roster, and he could be at the top very shortly.
Now, we're going to get to some guys that didn't quite make the top 10, but don't mean that they're any worse. I mean, some of these guys here, you'll be like, man, they should have been on the list. But if you see, it's all a matter of opinion.
Right.
And I'll let you start off.
Well, the first guy I want to talk of on the best of the rest is Zema Ion. He's a guy I think is kind of being misbooked in TNA. They're putting him on a show, and then he's not on the show for a month. And then he's on the show again, and then he's off for a month. And then he's the world champion. Then he disappears for 2 months. The guy, I mean, he's one of the people in the X Division that make you want to give a shit about the X Division still. I mean, he's a good X Division champion. He could transfer that and become a good TNA world champion. His character is really strong. His in-ring work gets better and better every time he comes out there. I mean, I like the kid. I don't know why TNA is pushing him to the background so much. And probably why he's not on the list is because of TNA's reluctancy to push him.
And the thing is, with him, I was harsh on this kid. You remember how bad I was on this kid when he first came out. But he did nothing but impress and get better. And still, they give the television or the X Division title to Rob Van Dam.
Yeah.
That doesn't even need it.
Exactly.
Next on the list is one of my favorite sons, or his only son, Mike McGillicuddy.
This is your pet project.
I figured. Mike McGillicuddy or Joe Hennig. I see a bright future if they put him on television. The same thing with Zema Ion. If Mike McGillicuddy or Joe Hennig, whatever you want to call him, if put on TV and used right, I see bright things in his future.
I mean, and I agree with you. He comes from a great lineage of wrestlers. Larry the Axe Hennig is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Mr. Perfect, not so much. But Mike McGillicuddy...
Really? You go stick on my guy? Come on, tell him. The guy was perfect.
I mean, his father and his grandfather were both really good wrestlers, really solid guys that you could trust to go out there and give a good match every night. McGillicuddy is someone I've seen in FCW a lot, and he was a guy that was the top of their show and a guy that was almost guaranteed to be a star. I kind of think it hurt him to put him into the Nexus.
I do too.
And I think that stunted his growth as a character. And I hope that him not being on TV right now is them looking for a good way to package him, bringing him back. Because, like you said, the kid does have some upside potential. It's just a matter of how they're going to use him. Now, speaking of kids, one of the last graduates of the Hart Dungeon, Tyson Kidd. He's a guy that's had an off-again, on-again push, kind of like we've said with a lot of these guys that barely missed the list. I mean, I don't understand why they don't use more of this guy. The fans are into his character. They love him. He's got some impressive movement. He's got some good ring psychology. Hell, he learned from the Hart family. He's basically a Hart family member. He's been around the family since he was a little kid. And I don't understand why he's not getting more of a push or getting more TV time. It makes no sense in the world to me.
There's one I just thought about too. I just want to put on there is D.H. Smith or David Hart Smith. You're talking about Tyson Kidd. He's another guy that has the body, the brains for the business. It's just if WWE would pick him up again and use him correctly, he could be as big as his father.
No, I don't see that much, but he could be a good character.
This guy's
the British Bulldog, Davey Boy, was a hell of a character. That's a lot to live up to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it'd be like saying McGillicuddy could be as big as Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect was a hell of a character. He just never got the push that he deserved. Kind of like Bulldog. Mm-hmm. But speaking of big characters, a guy that just recently debuted on WWE, Big E Langston. Now, the thing that I'm worried about with him is his character is so similar to Ryback that I think he'll be, and we've even called him Rye Black
and
on
that's
our
what
shows.
a lot of people have been calling him.
And I think he's going to kind of get lost in the shuffle, but once you see what this guy can actually do and the feats of strength that he has, he'll be a guy that I think can make, can transition out of Ryback's shadow and be another strong. I see him as being this generation's Mark Henry, and that's not a bad thing.
No, and the thing is, Mark Henry's probably on his way out because his shoulder injuries have been cleared up, but he still has some more nagging injuries. And I think that's why they brought Big E up so quick is because
they need a new Mark Henry.
They need another Mark Henry.
But that's what we have for the best RS. Now we're going to get into our number one guy, and I'll let Gary mention it because it's a guy that he absolutely loves.
He's one of the guys that always just brings it, man. Number one, Antonio Cesaro. This guy here is just one of those people that makes you want to sit and watch the television. You want to get up and grab a beer out of the fridge, but it's just like, well, Cesaro's on. You want to see what the next thing he's going to do. And he's starting to bring a lot of his moves from Ring of Honor over to work for Vince. I've finally seen the UFO that George was telling me about that he used to do in Ring of Honor, and it's freaking impressive.
I mean, the guy's a hell of a worker. He has been a hell of a worker for a long time. He was just waiting for that time to be called up. I mean, the guy's got a physique of $1 million, and he is as strong, if not stronger, than anybody on the roster. I mean, look at a guy like Big E Langston that we were just talking about, and I guarantee that he's just as strong as him, just doesn't have the power builder build. But the guy he's done everything. I'm interested to see this week, the week that we're taping this, Great Khali won a Battle Royal to be the number one contender for Cesaro's U.S. title. I'm going to be interested to see if he can pull the neutralizer off on a guy of that height.
That would be impressive. And the thing is, I wouldn't put it past him doing it. I mean, the gut wrench he does when he just sits there and picks a guy up, dead weights him. I mean, I was like, man, I saw him do it with Kofi, and I was like, man, that's pretty impressive. Kofi's not a giant guy, but he's big enough. But then when I saw him do it to Sheamus and not flinch, I was like, wow, this guy is freaking strong.
Yeah. And he absolutely deserves to be at the top of our list. I think the extra years that he spent in Ring of Honor not coming up to WWE due to some visa issues, he would have been there about 3-4 years sooner, but I think the extra years he spent in Ring of Honor, spent in the Indies, spent in places like CZW, it really helped him to become a more well-rounded character, and it shows. He's a guy that's going to be bankable for a lot of years, and I see him easily being a WrestleMania main eventer.
Oh, me too.
Now, basically, that's all I got to say about the list. Is there anything you need? Oh, wait. Before we do, if we think we left anybody off, if you don't like where we put somebody, if someone's too high, too low, or just not on the list at all, or someone shouldn't be on the list, let us know what you think. Hit us up on our Twitter, put it on our Facebook, put it down where?
Down there.
I had to give Gary a spot before we go. But basically, that's all I got to say about this. My name is George Coles.
I'm Gary Rhodes.
And this has been our Top 10 Brightest Futures.